Hey, what's up? So the title of this video is going to be like how to JavaScript or something like that. And what I'm really trying to do is I'm trying to talk to you about how you can start doing web development, JavaScript, HTML, CSS, whatever. And there are probably other JavaScript and CSS and HTML tutorials out there. So I'll let them be more specific than I will be about that. And I'm going to go like really free form and just talk about like how I would start if I were starting again. And I think without further ado, let's just jump over to a browser window. All right, in this browser window, we have beta.fugue.dev. And there's some files up, and I don't know what anything does or whatever. So let's come back to this whenever I can figure out what I should do. And instead, let's go to github.com. And my browser's already telling me like, hey, cross HJ, that's where you want to go or whatever. But that's not where you want to go. You want to go to github.com. And my GitHub is already logged in, so let's just log out just so I can give you kind of like a feel of maybe what you will see. I'd also encourage you to just try this. Like the biggest thing that I think that code camps or any of those people like school or any of that tutorials, biggest thing they do for you is just get you to start and to stop telling yourself, oh, I want to learn JavaScript, I want to learn CSS, I want to learn HTML. I never had that problem because like I didn't ever really want to learn JavaScript, I didn't want to learn CSS, and I didn't want to learn HTML. I had an idea and I wanted to see what it would be like if I put that idea in place. I had lots of ideas. Some of the ideas I had were I want to make a picture. I want to try to figure something out. And I'll give you an example of people doing that kind of thing. I'm looking for CSS realistic picture because there's a way. Yeah, I mean, you enter in whatever you think, like whatever idea it is that you have. But I'm at DuckDuckGo right now. You can go to Google if you trust them. Um, and then I'm just going to click on the first thing and just try to see like, okay, what it is. This is one I've seen before. Like people make these pictures with CSS. What? How do you do that? Or like, how do I even do like a basic version of that? How could I do a card? Even better, like, how could I just do like, how could I make a box that's red? Um, that is the whole thing that has driven me forward on doing things. The code camp, what they'll do is they'll ask you to spend, I don't know how much it cost, 30 grand, 10 grand, whatever grand. They want to get you to put that money in, and it's not what they taught you at the code camp that really made much of a difference, in my opinion. The thing that made the difference was you just committed. You just spent 10 grand and you better come out of this with something. So now you have a reason to start. You get why I didn't have to spend 10K to go to a code boot camp? I did go to college, but not for web development. The reason why I didn't need that is because I had an idea, and the idea is what committed me to doing things. And the sooner you come to grips with that, the better. Anyways, let's focus back on what we were talking about. So you can make CSS. Yeah, cool. We're back at GitHub. Put your email address in. After you put your email address in, you're going to be able to log in and sign up. And I'm just going to go ahead and sign in. Uh-oh. You can see my email address. Anyways, after you're signed in, it's going to be kind of like, what is all this stuff? Take a moment and look around. Maybe you don't have anything there. But one thing I can tell you for a fact that you do have there, and I'm going to zoom in, hopefully, you do have maybe a picture up there, or maybe you have like some initials or something like that, but you do have this plus. And what does the plus do? It lets you create a new repository and the rest of this stuff. Okay, new repository, that's the only thing. And why are you here? Why are you doing all this? Trust me for a minute. Let's get committed, okay? So you are the owner. CrossHJ is my name. I'm going to create a new repository name. What's the repository name? You can spend the next hour trying to figure out what the repository name is, or you can just type foo. And guess what? Crosshj/foo is available. Yay! Don't know what. And I'm going to leave the thing for the description there. It's optional, but I'm going to leave that spelling mistake in there. Whatever. So we can make it either public or private. I'm not going to go into that. You know, make it public. Like, just make it public. Screw it. And that way, whenever someone's trying to help you or something like that, you can just, you know, whatever. You can share it. That's cool. Sharing is good. You can make it private if it's for some reason like you're going to put sensitive things in here, but you don't even know what the name of the repository is. So, okay, foo, don't know what, public. Do I want to add a README? Do I want to add a get and ignore? Do I want to choose a license? You know something? All of this stuff you can figure out later. I'm not even going to check the box. Actually, you know what? I'm going to check the box for README because I can speak with experience that it helps to have something in that repo. So now you're going to have a repo called foo with a description that doesn't matter and a README in there that's basically just going to say probably that description thing in there. So I create the repository. Okay, there's the README. And this is what repositories look like. I'm on GitHub. Basically, like, you got up at the upper left-hand corner, you've got foo or crosshj, your username, /foo. And then in that, this will be a list of files right here. As you add more and more files, you'll see files come in right here. And then there's a special file called a readme.md. The .md stands for Markdown. Who cares? You can learn it later. But if you want to look right now, pause the video, go search for MD. That'll be another rabbit hole to go down. Anyways, your README will be shown here on the cover of the repository. And that just kind of gives people an idea of like what this whole thing's about, because you're going to add some code. You're going to add some code here, and there's going to be files and folders, and it's going to be like a long list of stuff. And it would be helpful if other people were looking at your repo out of the blue just to have a description of what's going on there. But guess what? You're pretty much done with GitHub for now. You're pretty much done. And now we can go back to Fugue. And I'm going to zoom in over there. Again, that's beta.fugue.dev. And as you can see, I already have a repo up. It has a README and all that other stuff. But what if I just first loaded Fugue? What would I have? Yeah, you don't even have to pay attention to what I'm doing. This is what you would have. You would load it up and it would say this right here. And it's like all these commands here. I don't even really know what to do. Hey, there's only one command that you really need to pay attention to, at least for now, okay? The one command that you need to pay attention to is git, which is git, and then space clone, and then your username / the name of the repository that you just created. When are we going to get to the JavaScript? Are we ever going to learn how to do HTML? No, we're never going to do it. I'm just going to show you how to set up a complete project and get started and get running and have immediate feedback. So just be patient for just one more second and we'll get there. All right, so what are all these files over to the left? Don't care right now. What's this file that came up, this welcome.md in the middle? Don't know, whatever. And then we have this thing over to the right, that's called a terminal. The terminal is where you issue these commands. So all you really have to do is that command that I was telling you about. Git clone, and then do, what was it? crosshj / and we named our repository foo. Okay, and then you hit enter. And wow, the magic has started. We're getting close. Okay, so git clone crosshj / foo. I basically just put my username / the name of the repository. What do I do now? Okay, I lied. There's another command that you need to do. Another couple commands, but it's all right here. You can remember that really easy. All you have to do is just figure out how to load up the site, and then how do you go here. All right, so you went here, and you can read configure git. We're not going to do that one. Clone a repo. Ooh, we already did that one. And now we can list all clone repos. We're at the second step. So I'm just going to do a git list. And what you're about to see is a bunch of repos cloned, but you only have one. You'll have your username / foo. Okay, so there it is at the bottom, number 5. Now it's on to the next command. Next 2 commands you should probably like just commit to memory because you may not be at a place where you can get back to these. So I'm going to just walk through that real quick. So we have get, open, and then you can type the name, or, and here's a secret sauce here, you see those numbers off to the right, you can hit one of those numbers. But I'm going to remember, I'm just going to keep in my memory, get close, okay? I'm just going to remember that because that closes out a repository. All right, cool. We're going to go in. We're getting deep now. So I'm going to say get, open. I'm going to look at number 5 there because that's the one I wanted to open. Bam. Okay, dang. All right, we don't have anything up. What happened? Well, you'll notice that this right here where it says Fugue v whatever the version is, cross/foo, it says that now. It used to say a squiggle. When you're at the squiggle, that means you're at home. That's how you go back and forth on directories. And I've not seen a better model for navigating through trees than the model that we use for file systems. If you're not familiar with how to navigate around a terminal for file systems, you should go look that up. Like, there's YouTube videos for that. There is the Google, there's the DuckDuckGo. Just go into that. Like, get to a point where you can just go in and change directories like crazy, and you can do all that. Just get comfortable with the fact of, like, I can change directories. I know what directories are. I know what folders are. They're the same thing. And get comfortable with that. Of course, you don't really have to get comfortable with that right now because there's only one file here and there's no folders. But let's go back to what I was saying. Why did I start doing this in the first place? Did I go to a code boot camp? No, I was already committed. What was I already committed to? Well, I wanted to know. I was curious. And I would hope that you could be curious too. Don't think of it like, I'm never going to learn this or anything like that. Think of it like, hey, let's see if I can mess something up, or let's see what this does, okay? And when you're in let's see what this does mode, typing in things like help are cool. Look, there's help cat, help cd, help, there's all those commands. Let's try out one of those. Help cd. What does it do? Oh, cd help. Let's try that. Nothing. Oh my goodness. How about we do, I know that get has a help. How about we do help get? What if I just type in get? Ooh, see? When you're in the mode of messing things up, you're going to find problems. You're going to find issues or whatever, but you'll also find cool stuff like this. So if you just type in get without anything, it tells you the kind of things you can do. Remember those things that I said you might want to commit to memory? Open and close and all that? It's all down here and it tells you what to do. So if you could just remember get, how about that? And you just type in get and there's no extra kind of thing that you remember, just type in get. Okay, cool. I'm done preaching. I want to get you to JavaScript. We're about to get to JavaScript like right now. All right, so we have the README over there. I can click on it and look what's in the README. Foo, don't know what. That's the same exact thing that was over here. So what clone does is it actually pulls that to your local. And who knows what local means? I think it means like that's where you go and get like fresh fruits and vegetables from people who have raised those things. I don't know. Local is basically just like whatever environment you're working in. This is an environment. I've got the repo loaded up. That's my environment. I'm in the foo. Oh, there's a weird bug. CD. Oh, because CD stands for change directory. So if you do CD help, then you're going to wind up in the help directory. Guess what? The help directory doesn't exist. So how do you go back out of a directory? You go CD ... And the helpful way of thinking of this is dot is the directory you're in, ... is a directory up. I don't know why that makes sense. Whatever. CD space ... and now you're back in the foo directory. If you want to show what's in that directory, you just type in ls. There it is, readme.md. Cool. I promised you we would get to JavaScript, okay? And I want to make it as simple as possible, so I'm going to start with HTML because JavaScript exists inside HTML, okay? So we are going to, there are a couple different ways to create a file. I'm going to right-click right here, and I'm going to type in new file, or I'm going to click new file, and we're going to call this play.html. and there's play HTML. The orange shows you that it's new. Click on play HTML. There's 2 lines in there already. I don't know where they came from, but there you go. That's how you do HTML. So there's an HTML file. You already know how to create HTML files. You just create a file and you give it the extension .html. Now, what goes into an HTML file? Some people already know this, but I'll just go ahead and put it in it. So basically, there's this like weird syntax where it's like you have angle brackets and it says what the thing is, and then later on down you have this closing of the angle brackets, and you know it's a close because it has this slash here. And then there's like all this weird stuff where like some of these, what they call tags, don't have to have the slash or whatever. Just keep the general rule in your head for now that HTML is like that, and then inside HTML there are usually a few main parts, so you add even more of those. You say there's a head, and we're going to close that one out, and there is a body, and we're going to close this one out too. So all right, we're jamming on HTML. Now, to be honest with you, Chrome and maybe other browsers, they don't really require that you do all this. Like, you could just do this and everything would be fine, because if it doesn't find the HTML tag, it doesn't find the HTML tag closing, doesn't find a body, doesn't find a head, that's okay. It'll just put one in there for you. It's called very forgiving. But I'm just going to leave it in there because, hey, it helps me think about how I'm doing HTML. Now, there are a couple commands or a couple other special tags, and there are places where those are supposed to go. You're supposed to put a style tag, which is where all your the styling for the page. You're supposed to put a style tag in the head. Last time I checked, I'm not really sure, but I can tell you for a fact that the style tag will work just fine right here. And style is probably one of the first times that we get a chance to start actually seeing something change in our document. I say the first time, but you could just go in here and type in the body, hello, and that would be a change. But that brings me to an interesting kind of place. Like, how do I see things change? I'm glad you asked, because really, you need to be able to see things change all the time. Like, every time I change hello to something else, I need to be able to see it change. And that's where I'm going to show you another command. And so far we've got get that we have to keep track of. And if we type in get, then it'll give us a help, so that helps us cheat all the way through on that one. And the other command that's like really important in using in this environment, and that's going to be called preview. All right, preview, because this thing on the right, this terminal that I was telling you, it'll run a program, and that program will basically just be your HTML that you have there, and it'll be an output of it. And what it'll do when you run this command is, now you can just go ahead and start typing, and you'll see on the right as things change. Remember I said that was important? Let's go ahead and try that out. First of all, I'm going to clear. All right, clear. You don't have to keep track of that one. You can just keep typing forever and not have things there. I like to clear things out. Okay, so I said I was going to keep this simple. Preview, okay? Now, with preview, you can either enter the name of the file and only preview that file, so as you're switching around between files, it'll stay stuck on that file, or you can just enter preview by itself, and whatever file that gets selected, if it can be previewed, it will be previewed, okay? I'm going to keep it simple, and I'm going to say, let's type in preview, and let's type in the name of the file. What's the name of the file? Play.html. Did I type it right? Looks like it. Uh-oh, dang, we have it. And here's the funny thing, it's got a gray, blackish kind of background, and I would think that, you know, it just looked like everything got erased or whatever, but I'm telling you for a fact, like, there's something there. In fact, if you highlight, there's hello. Okay, so welcome to the world of software development. welcome to the world of web development. You're already a developer at this point. Seriously, if you can understand this much, then you know enough to like get yourself into the rest of it. But I'm going to guide you a little bit further, because I think one of the important things as a developer to do is to like deal with adversity. And I can tell you I got a bug already. The bug is I can't see my hello. And remember I was saying that CSS was one of the first chances that you have to like start seeing things change? Okay, let's see things change. Now, this is where you really, I'll just tell you, it took me a long time to like get to a point where I knew enough CSS to really do anything. But there's like really just one simple approach that pretty much lets you do all kind of things in CSS. There's this concept of CSS selectors. All right, so we have that tag that we had right here, that body. The style is going to rely on that, and it's going to use a CSS selector in order to rely on that. So we have style. I'm going to type in the word body, and then the way that you do this in CSS is you say squirrely. And it was at this point that, for whatever reason, OBS decided to stop recording on me. Anyways, you say squirrely, and then you type in another squirrely, and there you go, open and close. Now, what I need to do is basically figure out what it was that I recorded earlier and just give you that information. So if it seems like I'm going a little bit fast at this point, I apologize, but I think it's probably a pretty good idea for me to go a little bit fast, so bear with me. The way you do things in CSS is you find the area in between those two swirlies, those, they call them curly braces, and then you type in something that you want to change. And I think I was saying earlier that CSS is one of the first times where you get a chance to actually see something changing. And change is an important theme to this particular talk. So let's go ahead and start talking about how we can see changes happening. But before we do that, let's type in the word color, because I remember that color is an important thing in CSS. It's an attribute that you can apply to any element, and it'll change the color of that element. All right, let's talk about preview. So if you go back over to your terminal over here, there's a special command. That special command is preview. And when that command is ran, the whole entire side over there will get taken up, and it'll be basically just whatever it is that you're previewing. And it's a little weird how you get out of that, but I'll show you how to do it. All right, so if we type in preview, now we could just type preview, and I'll just try that right now. And that's basically just going to preview the file that you are viewing. How do you close that? You make sure that that's selected by clicking on it, and then you hit Control, and then you hit Quit. So now we've learned something. All right, that's preview. All right, so let's talk about how we can see our changes happening and being applied while we're applying them. So to do that, I'm going to type in preview. This time I'm going to lock it in. I'm going to say I only want to preview play.html. I look at the keyboard whenever I'm typing. Preview play.html. All right, so we got hello there, and let's see if we can change the color of it. Maybe it'll work. Let's type in another color. You'll just have to remember colors. Green. Ooh, when you spell it with two E's, it doesn't work. Color green. And I was mentioning previously that the way that this preview works is sometimes you have to like kind of kick it a little bit. And what does kick it mean? Well, you just type again some random thing, and it'll actually apply. I've got some issues that it just doesn't get the last change that you clicked in, so you have to add some more changes for it to notice. I'll fix that in the future. So that's the basics of CSS. You have to be able to write selectors, and basically a selector is just saying, hey, this is a body, and I'll go into more of that later in another video, I think, or you can search for how to use CSS selectors. But basically the idea is you just type the name of the tag, and then you type your squirrely braces, and then you type some attribute. I'm going to show you one more attribute that you can use. I'm not even really sure if the word attribute is the right word. So you type in font-size, and I don't even think you have to capitalize that. I don't know why I did that. I'm going to say 100, and we're going to say 1000 px for pixels. Damn, that made it really big. What if we just said 500? What if we just said 100? What if I typed and then untyped? Okay, there we go. Remember I said you have to kick it. All right, cool. So I'm able to change the font size. I'm able to change the color, and there's a ton of other stuff you can change. There's some cool sites on the internet for that. But I want to show you one more thing before we move on. If you click on one of these elements, this body element, and you say inspect, then you're going to open up Chrome DevTools or Firefox DevTools or Edge DevTools, whatever. I'm gonna assume that you're using Chrome. You can see the HTML that you made right here. And then when you click on one of those elements, you can go over and look and see the CSS that got applied to it. There's this other computed layout, all this extra stuff, but yeah, just paying attention to this right here. And the cool thing about that is you can click on one of those values and you can press up and down, and you can get things exactly the way you want them. And then you can remember, oh, I think 83 is what works really well for that one. So I'm going to put 83. And why this is pausing, I don't know, but we're going to go back to the Elements tab, and it only got 8. So we're going to type 83. And then we're going to do our little trick of space, backspace. All right, so we're back. Okay, cool. The big takeaway there is that you can look at any page on the internet, and you can right click on one of the elements there, and if everything's working properly, you should be able to go over and you should be able to see the HTML for that, and you should be able to see what people did to create that HTML. That's how I learned a lot of stuff. In fact, I can even see that quick preview button is down there, but it's hidden. See? Visibility hidden. Ooh, I just learned a new thing. Visibility hidden. I can take that thing that I learned and I can try it out. Visibility hidden. Uh-oh, and it's hidden. Do you get how this works? You just poke around, look around, search around, and you find what you're looking for. That's the point. Poke around, search around. If you're committed to what you're doing, then nothing's going to stop you from searching. And those are the things that they matter, but not as much as being motivated to find them. Motivation is the most important thing. Cool. But let's go into something else, because I promised you that I was going to show you JavaScript. There's another tag, call it the script tag. And this is where a lot of the power, in my opinion, comes in. JavaScript is cool because you can use it not just in HTML, but you can use it all kind of places. You can use it on servers, you can use it in watches, you can use it in coffee pots, I guess, just everywhere. But here, we're going to use it in the web. And when you use JavaScript in the web, then you kind of have to be familiar with what the web is doing. All of this stuff over here that I was showing you, and this document that you created, it's all referred to as document object model. But we don't say document object model, we say DOM. DOM. So when we say something is affecting the DOM, this web page here that I created and loaded up in the preview to the right, it's affecting the DOM. When I type something in the body, if I type in LOU, that affects the DOM. All right, so script is kind of like your little robot that you can put inside your page, and it will affect the DOM for you, and it'll do all kind of other things like handle clicks and all of that kind of stuff. What if we wanted JavaScript to type in the message there for us, and we didn't want to use HTML to do that? Technically, you'd be using HTML if you used an embedded script tag, but whatever. The first thing we need to do is get a hold of that body. And the way that you do that is first you come up with a variable name. We're going to call it body element. And then we're going to say equals, because whatever we put to the right here, we want it to be put into this body element. Okay? So there's a thing called document, and that's something that you can take for granted if you're writing a script in the web. There's going to be a variable there called document. And then the way that you access the property of a document is by putting a period in. So anything that document can do, say like document does dishes, document changes colors, document waves hello, will be accessed by document dot. Okay? There's this one cool thing that document can do, or we can do from the document, is we can do a query selector. Remember I was talking about CSS selectors earlier, and all I needed to know was like kind of like the name of the thing, and then I can change the color of it. CSS uses selectors. So I can use one of those selectors to get a handle onto the element that I want. And that's called query selector. And then you just type a string, and that string is going to have the body or the query selector in there. It's going to have the selector in there, the same one that we used up top for the CSS. All right, cool. So now we have this variable that has the body element as its reference. What can the body element do? Well, I'm not going to talk to you a lot about all the things that the body element you can do with it, but I can tell you that there's this thing called inner HTML, and you can set it to whatever you want it to be just by using this syntax right here. Sorry, you need to use either single quotes or double quotes, and then whatever you put inside here, hello, hello, you there, you there. Preview is wanting to embarrass me, but to stay on point here, anything I want to put into the document I can do right here just by saying body element dot inner HTML. I just said the name of the variable. I said one of its properties. One of the properties, or one of the things it can do, is hold on to what the inner HTML is. And if you change that, if you say, hey, I want this to be the inner HTML, it'll basically just change it. As you can see, there's all kind of other cool things you can do. Okay, that's neat. So you could have JavaScript do all the CSS, not with this syntax, but there's syntax that you could do that with. You could have JavaScript do the entire body. You could have JavaScript do everything. But I promised you I would teach you JavaScript. I would show you how to get started with JavaScript. Remember how I showed you can open up DevTools and you can figure out how the web page is doing things? Go to a web page you like, open up the DevTools, see if you can figure out how it's going to do it. I did this. This is how I learned. Now, did I get the answer every time I open up the DevTools? No, but I did try, and eventually it stuck. Okay, so that's the whole point. The whole point is get to a point where you know how to get the information, go get the information, and try it out. Try it. So the worst that's can happen is you mess up that page, but you can always change it back. So now you have a pattern. The pattern is HTML. The pattern is CSS. The pattern is JavaScript. The way that you get started is just by doing this right here. There's one more pattern that I want to show you. We're going to close out this preview. How do we do that? Make sure the preview is selected by clicking on it and hit Control and then type in quit. Here's the other pattern. I'm going to type in clear, and I'm going to show you what I showed you earlier when OBS wasn't recording. All right, are you ready for it? Get, if we type that in, we remember that it shows all the information. Inside that, we can do this thing called diff. Diff is going to tell us everything that changed. Now, this is going to be a little bit weird because earlier, remember I said I was recording? I made a change, and that change was to add all of play.html. Now when I make a change and I say, hey, what's the difference? It's going to be different. Let's see what that is. Let's type in get diff. Oh, look. So this time I changed something. I changed color green versus earlier I was using this right here. And what is that? Look up HTML hex, or sorry, CSS hex color. It's very important because eventually you're not going to remember the name for the color, like green or blue or aquamarine or whatever. Go look up hex codes. Once you get the idea of it, it's super awesome. But the important thing here is these lines were removed. The green was added. And instead of saying hello you there, we add in inner HTML instead of inner text, and it used to say new date. Cool. I think I'll leave it like that. And let's go a little bit further on this whole get diff thing. Well, now that I know that foo play HTML has changed, what if I want to commit that? What if I want to save that to GitHub? Well, you can see I did that earlier, but we're not going to go there just yet. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to type the command that allows us to upload that to Git. Now, there's one little hitch here. It's that you have to do git config. And if you really want to know how to do that, let me know. I'll show you how to set up a token. And that way, whenever you do these commits, Git will know who you are, what you are, and that kind of thing. And you'll be able to commit. If GitHub doesn't know who you are, like by using a token, then it won't let you commit. But I already entered the token for myself. Ask me later, ask me in the comments, ask me on the chat, ask me anywhere, and I'll let you know how you do it. It's pretty simple. But doing it means sharing some of my own personal information, and I really kind of don't want to do that over a video. Anyways, the command is git commit -m for message, and then you type in the message. Change body text and text color and size. The idea is that you enter a message that if you're trying to go back to it later and remember what changed, that it at least summarizes it. And that is pretty easy to tell from in a case like this where there's only one file changed, but you may get into a coding jam and you may actually change like 100 files, and you need a summary of kind of like what changed. That way you can think about it from a higher level. Anyways, whenever I hit enter, we're going to get a cool little animation. I did that. And then we're going to get a URL. The URL is to the commit. GitHub tracks that commit for you. You can click on that and you can go over there and make sure, hey, did everything change the way that I want it to change? Yup, looks like red, that was removed, green, that was added, red, that was removed, green, that was added. If there was a problem, like you're working with a friend or whatever, and you're like, why did you change the thing? You can type it in right here. You can say, why did you change that? And that will stick. Someone will get an email saying, hey, why did you change this? They can go back and look at the code, and they can be like, oh, I changed because such and such. And you can have a whole entire conversation right here, right around the code. And that is anywhere you go. Anywhere you go on the internet, on the world, inside your head, it's there. And that's part of the reason why we use version control, or like software version control, GitHub, Git. That's why we use that, because interacting with people is very important. Talking about code, talking about things that we changed together is very important. That's why we use Git. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to look real quick at some of the other things you can do. You can also click on foo, and we see that play is there now. We could click on that. There's a little pencil icon, and you can edit it right here on GitHub. That's pretty cool. Part of what inspired me to make Fugue was that. And this is the old version. If I hit refresh, we're going to see that play was added. So I just needed to refresh. So yeah. Oh my goodness, you've discovered that I'm editing my videos. I better close that really quick. All right, cool. So I'm just going to kind of like briefly summarize what I went through here and kind of give like some closing statements. All right. So I told you that you were going to learn JavaScript, and I didn't take you all the way through JavaScript. And before I even started showing you JavaScript or HTML or any of that, I showed you Git and GitHub, because those things are important. And that is what development is, dealing with changes and talking with people about those changes and figuring out how you're going to make all the changes go together. The part about remembering CSS or remembering JavaScript or whatever, that's not the most important part. It's important, but you can go and search for that. This other stuff, like keeping track of your code, checking in every day, knowing what you changed every time you change something, that stuff is what you should build everything else on top of. And so that's why I say do that first. Get your GitHub account, make a repo, start working on your idea. When it comes to the code part of it, if you need to know something about JavaScript, just go to Google and type in, hey, what's up with that? Watch another video or whatever. Anyways, I'm going to leave it at that, and I'm going to go to the outro. I think we're good now. Thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something. So when you clicked on a video, did you think that you would be changing the world? Apparently not, but you did. You learned how to change the world.